OTB AM.
I am going to start with OTBsports.com, which is obviously leading this morning with the big story of the day. It's who is going to end up on Clare's Mount Rushmore. The contenders are all there for you. Brendan O'Brien's comment yesterday that the GAA are acting like the Tory party is one of our most read stories over the last while. Celtic's new kit for the 2021 season has been leaked, and apparently it looks very nice. And Roy Keane, quite the Paul Pogba fan, it turns out. That's some comments from his piece in the Sunday Indo yesterday. So that's what's on OTBsports.com for you this morning.
The Examiner has McCarthy fears football becoming poor relation. This is the Cork football manager, Ronan McCarthy's criticised the structure of the 2020 All-Ireland Football Championship, describing it as unacceptable that football teams have to do a straight knockout, whereas the hurling championship will have a back door. Of course, Cork have to face Kerry in their first match of the championship, which I'm sure is part of his thinking, and really means that any chance of progress in terms of kicking things on year is an absolute lost year. Now, they will have the last couple of weeks of the league at least to play before that from a Cork point of view, but trying to make progression up again, like maybe a shock Kerry, and it's one of the great days for Cork football.
And we've lost Kerry from the championship for the whole year.
Exactly. So I don't understand why they didn't go with some sort of Champions League style format and give teams 3 matches and everybody at least has a good reason. Because I wonder, is Ronan McCarthy talking to his players as well, who now know they're going into a 6 weeks of hardcore training with the county for potentially just 1 match. One of the other stories there is Derek McGrath unhappy with propaganda setting club against county. He was saying that there are advantages to players training with their counties over this period as well. And down the bottom, a couple more GAA stories. McCaffrey Goff opt out, which we've touched on already this morning. And Spillane wants golden score instead of penalties. So as we heard on Friday, one of the more interesting stories is that every match will be decided on the day, going to penalties if needed. And Pat Spillane was making a good point on the Sunday game last night that if, and remember, we've had a lot of close All-Ireland finals recently, if, for example, an All-Ireland final went to penalties, imagine being the guy who misses the penalty to cost your team an All-Ireland, and how, as an amateur player, you have to go and live with that. And a golden score, little 5-minute periods here and there may be a better solution, but it does look as though penalties are the way forward. And also inside a story from Davy Fitzgerald, who was not happy with some of the message boards down in Clare. He was actually speaking, we can listen to this audio, he was speaking on Today FM on Saturday, Davy Fitzgerald. Here's what he had to say.
I got absolutely lambasted last night in Clare for no reason whatsoever. And what actually gets me is faceless cowards that hide behind these. And I mean that, strongly mean this. Faceless cowards that can say stuff and they don't have their name to back it up. And then that goes all around the place and people might look at it and think it's actually true. Like, it actually disgusts me, some of the stuff that goes on, to tell you the truth. My way of doing it is, I was told today that something was said and I said, just leave it. It's not the truth. I've no interest in even looking at it or listening to it. And probably my dad has got a lot of stick being involved in the county board for years. And it's easy for everyone to say, don't take any notice. But after a length of time, if people keep persisting on it, it's hard. And you'd never know. This is all I'll say to you. Something could happen very soon that their legislation might come in or someone will stand up to this. And as far as I know, something like that is happening, and it'd be great to bring a few of these cowards out from behind the keyboard. Like, it could get into your head, like, and I'm very strong in this, like, and I am urging the government to take serious action on this, because it's not good for the mental well-being of people that people can just go on and attack and not even have the credibility to put their name to it and stuff like that. That's not what we're about.
It's a fair point. I mean, look, it's absolutely a fair point that you shouldn't be able to say whatever you want anonymously online, because it can have a very detrimental impact. And we've seen so many people step away from social media because of the impact that it's having. The other side of this is that, unfortunately, there's a bit of a Barbara Streisand effect going on here. I don't know if everybody understands the Barbara Streisand effect. Sometimes I have to remind myself and Google it and exactly find out what it was. There was a photograph of her house, I think in 2003, that she took action to suppress. She lives in this unbelievable mansion in Malibu, and there was an aerial photograph of like this giant kind of, it looks like a massive hotel, but it's actually just her gaff. on the cliffs looking down on the beach in one of the nicest parts of the world, and she wanted this to remain, you know, on the QT because it's her gaff. And so she issued loads of letters, and then everybody started to Google, where does Barbara Strauss live? And then suddenly everybody was looking at these pictures of her house. So then everybody went to look and see exactly what had been said on the Claire forum on Facebook, and it's grim enough. Like, it's this weird conspiracy theory that somehow Davy is trying to undermine the Clare hurling set up by asking the Clare football clubs to vote for a different type of. It's like, whoa! It is crazy stuff. But Davy,
I don't think it's the first time Davy's had issues with the Clare forum on Facebook either. It seems to be an ongoing problem that, again, it is an online forum where people feel they can say what they want, and as you say, a conspiracy theory, if it's that, takes hold and suddenly catches fire, particularly in a county like Clare where they are hurling mad, and Davy is now very much the enemy, that it suddenly takes hold, becomes fact, and it just spins out of control.
Davy very much the enemy, but will he be on there Mount Rushmore this morning, Nathan? That's what I'm asking. It's the only question that we need answered today, and we will have it answered in about an hour's time. So,
are they talking about it on the Clare forum?
Oh, I've no doubt they are. I haven't checked. I suppose we should have checked that. Right, that full interview is on Pumped Up Kicks on Saturday afternoon on Today FM. The Irish Independent this morning, their back page is McCaffrey an immeasurable loss. This is Paul Caffrey saying this, and that is the penalty yesterday from Kevin De Bruyne. And O'Brien reveals Santiago could chase famous treble in Epsom Derby following Irish triumph. So the way that the season has lined up this year, it may end up being perfect for Santiago, the winner of the Irish Derby, after he led home a 1-2-3-4 for Aidan O'Brien in the Irish Derby. Apparently there's only a 10 grand entry supplemental fee to be paid today, so there's a possibility when they scope him and check him yesterday and see how he is doing this morning that they'll pay that 10 grand. He already has 6 Epsom hopefuls ready to go, and that's Marcus Armitage and Michael Verney's story in the back of the Indo. So big possibility that we might be getting some more Derby action in Epsom from Aidan O'Brien.
Who says the FA Cup has lost all relevance? It is very much the main story on the Irish Times this morning, covering 3 of the matches from yesterday. Slick City leave Newcastle in the spin. Manchester City 3. So too Arsenal with that late winner by Ceballos. And also Ross Barkley scored the only goal as Chelsea beat Leicester. So we've Manchester United against Chelsea and Arsenal against Manchester City as the 2 FA Cup semi-finals.
The Mirror, the stories in the tabloids are all very similar today. So it's thick and mix. Fury as Hornets trio are all partied out. This is the best thing that could have happened for the other relegation threatened teams, is that 3 of the Watford lads are potentially out now for a couple of weeks. And maybe the rest of the season. Europe, the only way is Cup, Gunners, Lamps, thank you, Super Subs, and De Bruyne and Sterling get City dreaming of United. Faithful boss pushes for a club versus county compromise. There's plenty of us for us to get our teeth into on the club versus county issue. Some those interesting comments here. We're talking about it a little bit earlier on from Derek McGrath as well. In the star bark of the net, Ross Barkley, who scored that winner for Chelsea against Leicester. Boys Eye Hart deal. This is a transfer story that Joe Hart may well be on his way to Celtic. Again, they have that Watford story, which is just an incredible story. And with Watford, the position they're in, I'd imagine there's a fairly hefty fine coming for all 3 of them. And also more refs may go with Goff, which we touched on earlier, that David Goff may not be the last inter-county referee to step away, particularly when they have the issue that so many of them, it is almost a family-run business at times, the refereeing game, where their selectors go with them, and as well, selectors? What am I talking about? Umpires go with them as well. So it'll be interesting to see if that becomes an issue over the next few weeks. The front of the Star this morning is out for the count. Cartel boss Daniel KO'd. Pro boxer says Kinahan has left sport. MTK gym is shut down, and they have a double-page spread. Now, in fairness, it's a double-page spread. It's Billy Joe Saunders on an interview with IFL TV, is that what it's called? And he says that Kinahan is walking away from boxing. Billy Joe Saunders, I always feel uncomfortable talking about him because he is such a horrible human being and has such a bad track record of things that he has said and done in his life that make you very reluctant to ever speak about him. But anyway, just breaking our own rules for once.
The back of the Sun, Golden Boot. Salah, I'm after you, Jamie. So Mo Salah has won the Golden Boot in each of the last 2 seasons in the Premier League. He is just 2 goals behind Jamie Vardy, who's going through a bit of a drought now. So Mo Salah obviously not wanting to spend too much time out of the Liverpool side over the last few weeks of the season. And Golden Booted, again, Watford turmoil as Covidiot Gray is axed. That story of the house party that looks like it may well ruin Watford's season.
Is Mo Salah on a bonus for winning the Golden Boot?
You gotta be on something. Also, I'm sure he's on a substantial goal bonus.
Is he?
So
Is he not so good that he doesn't, like, a goal bonus is like...
You can be so good, get your 250 grand a week basic, but also get yourself a nice 30, 40 grand per goal.
Right. Okay.
And I'm sure in terms of his image rights, a 3-time in a row Golden Boot winner ain't going to be too bad.
Yeah, fair enough. It all adds up. That's official. GA refs Chief Smith expects more opt-outs. That's Philip Lanigan's story about the slew of referees that may follow David Goff, and some sterling work by City. Manchester City bounced back from conceding the Premier League title to Newcastle by brushing aside Newcastle 2-0 in the FA Cup yesterday. And loss of McCaffrey would put real dent in Dubs' quest for 6 in a row.
Back at the Guardian, Lampard turns air blue before super sub Barkley steals show. Seems Frank Lampard gave them a bit of a rollicking at half-time, which turned things around for Chelsea. And Deeney urges social media firms and MPs to act on racism. Interesting interview in there with Troy Deeney on his thoughts on how they can put some pressure on the various different social media firms to stop the constant racism that's appearing on some of them over the weekend.
The Telegraph this morning, Ben, is City bounce back to keep their treble dream alive, and Leicester in contract chaos with 12 players set to leave club. That's the Leicester Tigers. And rugby situation at the moment seems like a bit of a disaster, really. So they've put August 15th, I think, in the calendar for a return to Premiership action. Just wait and see exactly what kind of state that those clubs are going to be in by the time that rolls around.
The Racing Post owners to return to racecourse in trial starting on Wednesday, so possibility that owners may be allowed back this Wednesday, according to the Racing Post. Obviously, at the moment, there's not many people at all allowed at racetracks, so owners could be among the first to return. And they have that story that you touched on, that O'Brien not ruling out Epsom bid with Irish Derby team.
Herald, I think, is also Paul Caffrey's story, where he's talking about how much of a loss it's going to be for Dublin without Jack McCaffrey, and we've got confirmation that Jack McCaffrey is, of course, stepping away now at this stage from the inter-county scene, for now anyway.
And finally, we have the Irish News, which is touching on the GAA and McAvoy. No call yet on venue for Tyrone v Donegal encounter. This is the Ulster Council Secretary Brian McAvoy saying that no definite decision has been made as to whether the quarter-final will take place in Ballybuffet or could well take place in Croke Park. There's all sorts of issues in terms of social distancing and what sort of crowd they could have. If social distancing were to remain in place, you'd be looking at a crowd of 1,100 in Ballybuffet for that game on what is probably going to be Halloween, whereas at Croke Park it could well be up to 21,000.
All right, and finally for me now, just a reminder, of course, what you can get on the OTB Sports app this morning. Let's have a look what you've got there. There's your home feed. You can select which of the stories that you actually want yourself, and then, of course, scroll down to get all of our best video and all of our best podcasts. But we've got a live radio station, OTB Sports, broadcasting for you 24 hours a day with all of our live shows and, of course, all of the best stuff from our archive over the last 18 years.